Hello, welcome to this video. If you haven't seen my first theory and speculation video, I recommend that you go watch that one because this one's not going to make as much sense. This is a follow-up to that. I know the game comes out in less than a week, and so probably a lot of people are just like, fuck it, I'll just see what happens. But I've been wanting to collect some extra thoughts I've had in the time since the last video. Basically I was rewatching it and I just kind of noticed some stuff, and then, you know, I've seen a couple more playthroughs since then and I keep noticing more things to want to point out. I guess just for a quick summary, if you have seen it but don't want to, you know, go refresh your memory, the main sort of hypothesis that I had is that even though most people in the community seem to be leaning towards the idea that Mesma doesn't have any magic at all, which there is some good evidence for, I'll admit. I've been leaning more into the notion that she has some kind of hypnotic, like, mind magic, which I guess, you know, I'm already thinking of things I want to add to that and sort of clarify, but I thought about it. I didn't want to make another presentation because that was a lot of effort and slowed down the production of the video, and honestly, this thing is not going to get out in time if I do that, so I'm just gonna play through the game, cut around a little bit, and kind of point out some lines. I've sorted my notes into, like, the order that you see them in game, and yeah, we're just gonna kind of keep it simple. So if I go ahead and do a new game here, we're gonna enter the Reverie section, the dream. And I think I brought this up as like an open-ended thing last time, but there's a lot of the letter Z or Z around everywhere. Someone must have dropped their Z on the floor. Someone must have dropped their stain on the floor. So if you go here, there's also one in the tree. There's one on the ground, and like, I think, I don't remember if I talked about this, honestly, but if I did, I probably was just like, it's just, you know, Z's like, you know, the symbol for when someone is, like, sleeping, right? And I do still think that that is, you know, the reason that it's the letter Z. So there's these Z's all over the dream, and this is kind of a silly point to start with, but once you click wake up here, and the newspaper clipping comes up, this big N, if you rotate it, is a Z. And there's not really much for this one, but my hypothesis is, what if the Z is some kind of, like, triggering symbol? If indeed, Mesma has already gained some influence over the mind of the player character, could it be that this Z is supposed to, you know, trigger some kind of programming or conditioning to do as she wants? In this case, you know, please call this number, please. That one is a little bit shaky, I'll admit. There's not actually a whole lot of other Z's around the demo that I've noticed. You would think perhaps she would fill her home with them, but okay. Even if you you know, I'm not so sure about that one. I guess there is, you know, a big N on the sign here, but I'm not too sold on that one. I just wanted to bring it up. Instead, let's go up to the door here, and this is one I pointed out on the Discord, but let's see. You speak up. Hello? You sound uncertain, as though you're unsure whether you're supposed to be here or not. Are you lost, or are you where you need to be? Who are you, even? Let's retrace the steps. Tell me why you're here. I had a weird dream. An odd reverie of the night. What did you say happened in this dream? I got berated by a bird. Sounds like fun. But then something happened, did it not? What was it? I woke up to a fire. You triggered your magic while asleep, which means you realize you have little control. Then I found your number in the newspaper, and I called you on the telephone. Did I pick up? Yes. What did we talk about? My predicament. Your weak control of your magic. I gave you my address, so I came here. Upon which, I knocked on your door. So after that, and we're caught up. So, you know, the first time through, you read this, and it's like, oh, you know, how silly. Why is she asking us all this stuff that we both know? But, as it happens, I was thinking about this, and it occurred to me that asking somebody a bunch of simple questions that you both know the answers to is actually a really good way of facilitating a hypnotic induction. I mentioned in the previous video I am an amateur hypnotist, and that is a real thing. Like, you know, a lot, it's very psychological, it's very, kind of, it requires a degree of priming the person's mind to know what to expect, because to an extent they are kind of quote unquote playing along. It's just you know, unconsciously or subconsciously doing so, and not it, you know, with a degree of intentionality. And so little things like talking to the subject beforehand and asking them a bunch of questions that are very, very simple to answer kind of gets them in the right headspace for answering your other questions, responding to you, responding promptly, you know, saying what you want them to. And you know, this, it's, if you don't know much about the subject, this is kind of going to just sound like, you know, source dude, trust me, but you know, if you're interested, you can look into it. This is a real sort of principle. And you know, one that I myself have found success with. So yeah, if indeed Mesmer is trying to gain some influence over our mind, this is a potential avenue for that. And you know, she definitely had, you know, I think I mentioned this to somebody at one point, and it was like, oh, what if she didn't really have that conversation and she was, you know, what if there's a different explanation here where this is not the same person, for example, that we actually spoke to on the phone, and there's like a, you know, multiple Mesmers or something like that. But if you, and I guess I can show this now. Don't necessarily need to. I'm sure people already, if you're you know, obsessive enough with the game to be watching this video, then you might already know. But I don't know. Distressed for having burned down their home with that magic at the exact date and time I said to them on the telephone. Yeah, so she knows. Inserting this clip later because I forgot to actually do this in the original recording. But if you knock on the door, and by the way, I'm always learning something new about this game. While I was setting up this test recording earlier, yeah, if you don't click anything, they're just staring at you. Maybe you should try speaking first. I don't think I've ever seen that text before. Anyway, that's not relevant. You speak to her and you say, I had a weird dream, and then when she asks you what happened in the dream, you say, you don't remember. She says, that's odd, you seem deeply distressed on the phone with me. Something about your house having burned down in your sleep, and you felt it was because of your magic due to a dream you had. Oh hey, you're the one supposed to be telling me this. What are you, some kind of telepath, pulling a trick of the mind on me? I think I had seen this line before and just sort of forgot about it or written it off, but yeah, this is kind of huge, right? Like, in the game, outside of this, the only fields of magic that I mentioned are specifically ones that the characters specialize in, right? We know about Maldi's brewery, and Murphy's botanical and zoological magic. And of course our player character's pyrokinesis, which is a subform of telekinesis. Unless you count, like, dark magic, which is one of the answers you can give. This is the only other field of magic that is specifically mentioned, that I can recall. And it's specifically the kind that could pull a trick of the mind on somebody to make somebody do something. Which, that's... I don't know how I didn't point this out the first time, but, like, it seems way too coincidental to me. That the only other one that they mention, which, you know, is in just some optional dialogue that can set this up. And, you know, with writing, generally, you want to be, you know, including information that is, you know, pertinent in some way. And, you know, you could say this just fleshes out the world. I choose to see this as, this is almost kind of a Chekhov's gun or something. Like, this is setting up the idea that there are telepaths that can, you know, quote, pull tricks of the mind on you. And yeah, so nothing else beyond that, but I just wanted to include that in the intro because I forgot to do that. So yeah. Okay, if we go ahead and consult the orb, this is another thing that I thought of while I was watching my previous video, when I was talking about the orb. What will I get out of today? Fortune granted, stronger, deeper magic, internal arcane knowledge, glass shards in your face, maybe new friends. Now, I thought that was strange, because if you remember, here in the augmented dream state, if I break these vials, Mesmer is the one with the glass shards in her face. I felt like crazy when I noticed this. I'm like, how have I not pointed this out? How has no one else pointed this out? You speak to the orb, it literally says you'll get glass shards in your face. And, like, okay, so, you know, I did connect the two, but what I didn't realize is, like, Mesmer is the one with the glass shards in her face, not you. And, you know, she shakes them off or whatever, it's kind of played for a joke. You could argue that you have glass shards in your face too, and it's just not shown. But that seems strange. There's no indication that that is the case. I mean, you were both here, like, it would stand to reason, but there's no indication that there's anything in your face. Not even a single line that says something about pulling the glass shards out of your own face. So, that's strange. Another thing I want to point out is, so I spoke at length about the white text that Mesmer uses, in... Sorry, there's a long section here where I can't go back. I talked about how she uses white system text at certain points and doesn't have voice clips. I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. If I go to kitchen session, oh, actually, sorry. If I go here, and you ask her, are you really witch? Yes, there you go, there's the white text. With a piano sound for some reason. She doesn't say it, she doesn't use her voice clip for that. And then over here in the kitchen, you start the session. So, here in the session, when you say that you'll try better, she says, imagine there's nothing in the world but you and the bottle on the shadows so very much. White text. Nothing else in the world to seal your concentration, hold on to that focus. Just a little reminder, I'm not here, pretend I'm not here. The runaway button is gone. This is the one of the only times in the entire game that you can't run away. The button is like literally always there unless you're in dialogue. There's no dialogue right now. You know, I can go and click around on stuff. And so my hypothesis was like, you know, the white text represents she's speaking to us directly in our mind somehow. So let me go ahead and continue here, because there's more I would like to add on to that. It's just sort of further evidence for that. And drink the fluid. I'm feeling perfectly fine. So here in the augmented dream, this was actually added in an update at some point. This was before my video, but it was after the first time I played it. There's a bunch of text that is programmed to scroll across the screen here. I got work after this. Guess I'll magic this. Feeling sleepy. Mesmer. I think there's one where they say, what's even happening? There's one where they say she talks so weird. This is in the white system text. It's a bit hard to tell with the warbly effect being applied to it. But yeah, this is literally our thoughts. If you think of the white system text as being, you know, anything that is in our head, I guess, like, you know, the narration, things that we're saying to ourselves in our head, then I feel like that just further evidences it. If she's speaking in the white system text, and you don't even, you know, hear her voice at the same time. It's not like it's just, I mean, okay, it might still be just for emphasis, but it seems strange that it doesn't play her voice clips. It seems to me like she's in some way connecting directly to our mind. And further to that, if you tap on the glass here, so, you know, the no reaction text and like, and then it, you know, the narration was there, plays, and then you order, you can see it in the background. It's programmed to repeat the bird's text in the background. This is literally the exact same format that our own thoughts were being played. Now, you could argue, okay, this is just for the bird, because the bird is in our head, whatever. But, like, I don't know. I'm pretty convinced by this. If a different voice in our head is represented not only by seeing this text, and you might be like, oh, but Mesmer doesn't, you know, it doesn't use both like this one. We're literally, like, inside our head right now, in some kind of weird dreamscape. So that's why we're, you know, thinking of the bird as being, you know, we're seeing the bird speak to us. And then it's also being echoed back in, like, our own thoughts. Sorry for disturbing you. Yeah, you better be. Like, I don't really know what else to add other than come on. So, okay, we've talked about the glass shards. I don't really know what to. I guess I should add that I don't really know what to get out of the whole like the orbis from her perspective thing. It raises the question of, okay, are the other fortunes that you can receive from it from being given to you as if Mesmer is the one asking the question? I mean, she certainly can't trust Mesmer after she's dead, so that still tracks. Why is it inconclusive at that one point after the caged creature, tells you about stuff? I don't really know, but okay. So let's go ahead and continue here. There's a couple more things I want to point out. Okay, so at the moment we have augmented magic because we have just drank the wobbly potion, the concoction. But something else occurred to me, which is how exactly does this thing work? She said, if your magic is useless in wakefulness, then we have to induce a dreaming state. Okay, that stands to reason. We took the potion, we broke the vials while we were asleep, but then we sort of instantly snap out of it, even though we slowly came down. Why is it that we snapped back out of it? You could argue maybe it was the shattering of the third vial specifically that snapped us out of it, but it seems more likely that maybe Mesmer did that. And now, even now that we're awake, we have access to our magic, or our augmented magic. And basically I'm wondering, are we actually awake right now, or is this some kind of in-between state? I mentioned that the name of one of the tracks in the game when you wake up after clicking on the newspaper is called Hypnopompia, which is the name of the trance state that people are in when they are going from asleep to awake. Are we in some kind of hypnopompic trance in the game right now? Is that why we have access to our magic? Because surely if we were actually awake, we wouldn't have access to it. I guess, there's some kind of lag period, but like it's specifically connected to being asleep. And so I think it, makes sense to assume that we're at least, and she even says like, oh, maybe the concoction still has you drowsy. So yeah, it seems like we're not actually fully awake right now. And I mentioned last time, like maybe this mirror is here to try to psychologically manipulate us in some way, such that maybe seeing our reflection would be a problem for her, or maybe just replacing our reflection with hers is in some way helpful for gaining and maintaining influence over us. I'd now like to add to that and say that what if she needs to block the mirror, because if we were able to see our reflection, we would be able to see that something is, perhaps wrong with us. People who are in trance do tend to look not quite all there. They have a certain something to them that makes them not look fully awake and not fully in their right mind. And perhaps she's concerned that seeing our reflection would snap us out of it fully. So yeah. Now there's only one more thing, which is in her room, and this is another thing that I actually only noticed yesterday, and I feel really, really dumb for this as well. So whatever, there's the mural, there's the window. If you try to leave, she's like, what are you doing in here? It's just part of experimentation, don't worry. You can say, sorry for breaking in. She says, aye, worry not. I've done my fair share of such as well. So, like, there's a few different points in the demo where you can talk about, like, she's like, oh, feel free to experiment and, break stuff and whatever. And I just kind of, for some reason, I took... there's like a preview as well of her talking to you about the broken piano. She's like, oh, worry not, it's part of your experimentation for developing your magic. But here specifically, the exact exchange is, sorry for breaking in, worry not, I've done my fair share of such as well. She's literally saying, I have broken into people's houses before, or their rooms, or I've done breaking and entering before. Which, when I talked about the secret page on Orbital.'s website that showed the player, or seemingly the player character, sleeping in bed with, the vision of Mesmer slowly kind of fading in, indicating that they were sort of, dreaming about her, she was invading their dreams. I suggested, and the kind of the whole conceit of my entrainment theory is that, she had gotten some influence over the player character in advance, sending the bird in some way, perhaps as a real bird, or perhaps, it's some kind of you know, mental construct or something, but I think this is actually probably some of the best evidence for that, because it's like, okay, she doesn't say that she's broken into your house, but I mean, you know, obviously that would concern you. For what reason would she have broken into somebody's house? Based on the motivations that we know from her, we don't really have much reason. We don't have many other reasons to work with here. Like, you know, maybe you could just say for robbing them because, like, oh, you know, where do they get their money? Or like, you know, maybe for stealing magical components specifically. But with all of the strange things that I pointed out surrounding the dream and surrounding the manner in which you wake up and the convenience of the newspaper, which, by the way, there was an interview on a podcast that Orbital Dot did, in which they did kind of draw attention a little bit to the newspaper clipping being very convenient, which I thought was interesting and noteworthy. But so, you know, all of that is suspicious as is, and I was already kind of leaning towards perhaps Mesma broke in, and I think I actually suggested that the newspaper maybe wasn't real and it was planted in your mind. You know, I don't know about that necessarily. This kind of suggests maybe more it was a real newspaper and she just planted it. But either way, as a modification to that theory, I guess you could say that we were still seeing the newspaper in that hypnopompic state rather than being outright asleep. I think that probably tracks a little bit better with the whole thing of like waking up to the fire, because it's like, okay, it's not that we saw the fire before we woke up, it's that we saw it, you know, while we were waking up, which makes sense, and that the newspaper was while we were in our sort of hypnopompic trance, and maybe that is the state in which she has the most influence over us, and that's how she was able to kind of manipulate us to, you know, call her and come to her house. So yeah, that's basically it, honestly. I have my notes here. I don't think there's anything else that I needed to cover. I think the white system text thing is pretty compelling. I think this breaking and entering thing is pretty strong. The Z thing is pretty weak. Oh, the simple questions at the beginning, that could go either way, honestly. It depends on how much Orb actually knows about real hypnotism. Yeah, the whole thing about, like, the concoction and, you know, are we in a trance in the game right now, and is that why the mirror is obscured? I'm also kind of... I think it's cool and would make sense, but it is perhaps a little bit weak, so... Anyway, that's basically just a few ideas I wanted to present before the game comes out. You know, if this interested you, please do check the game out if you haven't already. Like, I don't know who the hell is watching this that hasn't, but, yeah, I don't know. And if you want more speculation and you haven't seen my previous speculation video, even though I, you know, said you probably should, then, I guess I'll put a link to that in the description as well. That's pretty much it. You know, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm really looking forward to this game. Less than a week away. I will be streaming it on launch day with Joseph. That's the plan. Yeah, so thanks for watching. Bye-bye.